Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
G'day, I'm Troy Dean and you're watching Rinse and Repeat in action on Business Blueprint. In this series, we are helping you create recurring revenue because recurring revenue really is the holy grail of all business models. In this particular series, we're interviewing real-life business owners who have created recurring revenue businesses. In the first series, Rinse and Repeat, we taught you the 6-part methodology and formula for creating recurring revenue, and you can find that series at businessblueprint.com or on the Apple TV in the Business Blueprint app. But in this series, Rinse and Repeat in action, we're actually interviewing real-life business owners who have built recurring revenue. And in this particular episode, we're going to interview my good friend Brennan Dunn from the USA. And Brennan is an expert at productizing a service-based business into a recurring revenue product. So I really hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Without further ado, let's go and meet my good friend Brennan Dunn. Hey, Brennan Dunn, welcome to the show.
Hey Troy, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Now, for those that don't know, let us know, where are you right now? Where are you based in the world?
So I'm in Virginia Beach, Virginia, which is a little south, about 3 hours south of Washington, D.C. So right by the beach and close to the mountains and ideal climate.
Beautiful. And for those that don't know, and most won't, what is it that you do? What's your background and what's your business today?
So I started freelancing after quitting my job, working at an agency. So I used to work at an agency in Miami Beach, Florida, and my wife and I got pregnant, so we moved up here to Virginia, and I knew no one, like I didn't know any of the businesses or anything like that. So I started consulting with a friend of mine from college who lived out on the West Coast in San Francisco. And one thing led to another. I got a bunch of referrals, and I kind of just started to grow this business. So I got the business to 11 employees. We were doing a few million a year in revenue, and I decided to go the next step, I guess, and start a software company. So I started a software company called PlanScope, which is a subscription software company. And the funny thing that happened there was I exited the agency because I couldn't focus on both. So I just went heads first on this project management SaaS. And a lot of the customers would write me support emails that had nothing to do with like the app doesn't work or I don't know how to do this or whatever. Instead, they would write me things like, hey, I read that you used to run an agency. Do you have any advice on getting clients? Or do you have any tips on how I could charge more? Or things that I thought, at the time I was like, this is out of scope. This is a project management tool. You're asking things that are unrelated. But then I started getting cancellations where people would put in the message box and why they were canceling. Things like ran out of work or got a full-time job or something like that. So I started then working on helping people. At first it was over Skype and email, just kind of one-off, helping people with their questions that I had learned growing my company. But one thing led to another, and then I ended up creating a number of courses. I have a few courses on getting clients, on pricing, and on starting an agency, and I created a podcast, and the rest is history. For the last 4.5 years, I've been helping freelancers and agencies better understand the business behind their business.
Awesome. I like that. I like that catchphrase too. Understand the business behind their business, because it's something that as business owners we quite often don't have the time to actually just step back and say what's really going on behind the curtains.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of us, I think we come from such a technically minded background where we were hired because we're great designers or we're great at coding. And then when we start running our own thing, we quickly realize that the success of the business is a lot more than being good at what you do technically. You need to know how to sell, you need to know how to market, you need to know how to issue proposals and get paid and all those other things, which I think a lot of us are kind of unprepared for when we start out on our own.
Yeah, totally. So the focus today it's called Double Your Freelancing, is that right?
That's the name of my business, yes. My new brand, it used to be very scattered, now it's all consolidated under the Double Your Freelancing brand.
Awesome. So tell me, how is a recurring revenue business model different from some of the business models that you've had in the past? What are the key distinctions?
Sure. So with my agency, remember I had 11 employees. Our monthly payroll was north of $100,000 a month. And that didn't include the building rent or utilities or anything like that. So all of our income for the most part, now we had some maintenance retainers, but I didn't really know how to sell them well or anything like that. I'd say 90+% of our revenue was due to one-off sales. So we'd court client, we'd sell them on a website redesign or building them a mobile app or something like that. We'd do the work, we'd get paid, and then we'd move on. The problem was, since all of our work was transactional, but all of my expenses were fixed, right? My payroll was fixed and everything else was fixed. It made for some stressful times when I wouldn't know realistically, what am I going to be working on next month? Who's going to pay me next month? So, the difference is when you have predictable recurring revenue, you can use that to offset against your fixed costs, employees, your bills, whatever that might be. Which, from a growth and a state of mind perspective, I think is something that is a good thing for all of us.
The predictable, you said growth and state of mind. I mean, we have very similar trajectories, as we both know. And I hear you loud and clear. Everything you're saying is just resonating with me. From a peace of mind point of view, it definitely makes you sleep easier at night when you know you've got that revenue coming to the business. But also, it does allow you to plan for growth, doesn't it? It allows you to think, okay, well, let's put on a live event or let's hire a new team member, and you know that. Roughly by March next year, we should be able to do this because if all still goes well, the revenue will be coming into the business. And I think that's a really key benefit of having a recurring revenue business model.
Well, it becomes math. I mean, you have a growth rate, which is your historical trajectory on how many clients or how much revenue you're adding each month. And then you have a churn rate, which is, well, how much money or clients am I losing each month? For consulting, it's probably not like you're maybe adding one new client a month, if that. But in some other business models, you could be adding dozens of clients a month, but losing 5 or 6 or something. As long as the growth outpaces that churn, and you have the charts are moving correctly up and to the right, then you're absolutely right. You can plan for growth. You can hire when you need to hire. You can like you just mentioned, you can do certain marketing initiatives that feed into that growth, and it just becomes a fun math equation. Eventually.
Yeah, we'll have monthly subscriptions, and all of our customers are paying for software or paying for a whole bunch of subscriptions in their life. What sort of challenges and customer objections do you have to overcome to get your customers convinced that you're providing enough value to take on another subscription?
It's funny. Like with PlanScope, our average entry level plan was $24 a month, which it's not a lot of money. It's maybe two lunches out a month. My training course, Double Your Freelancing Rate, is $299 on average. It's easier for me to sell that than it is a $24 a month subscription to PlanScope. And I think the reason why is even if you were to, like conceivably, the average customer doesn't even last a year on PlanScope. The average lifetime value of a customer is about 12 months. So that actually puts them less than the $299 price point for the training product. But the objection I think people have is even if you tell them there's no contract, even if you give them a great guarantee, people just don't like knowing they're on the hook, right? They don't like knowing that they're on the hook for yet another thing that's going to hit their account every single month like clockwork. And so I mean, that's the resistance. People don't like commitment. I mean, that's basically what subscription models entail, is commitment. And the way around that, I think, is, well, I mean, it obviously depends on kind of what you're selling. If you're selling SaaS versus a membership site, the way to kind of impress upon them the value, I think, is going to change. But at the end of the day, what needs to happen is somebody needs to realize that the amount of value they're getting out versus what they're putting in, meaning the money, needs to outweigh, the amount they're getting out needs to outweigh what they're getting in. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of tactical things you could probably cover. Things like when you send them that monthly invoice, also send them a report that shows the value they've received, whether it's a productized service or even a membership site, like, show them all the activity this month or, everything that was discussed or, something like that. But I think it's really important, when people look at let's say their credit card statements or their bank statements, the first thing they're going to try to do is try to cut things that are hitting them monthly. But if they know, if somebody can, especially when it gets especially tricky when the person using it or who's your client is not the one footing the bill, becomes especially important to do this. But it's really important, I think, to associate cost to value. Especially, you don't want to be like a gym where you're just billing people in the background and it's up to them to eventually realize that, hey, I'm not actually going. I should cancel, right? So I think the number one thing is to really correlate the value they're getting out with the value they're putting in each month.
I think you make a very interesting distinction is actually communicating that value, because I was at the supermarket the other day, and when the receipt comes out of the supermarket and they give you the receipt, the biggest piece of writing says total savings, right? Right. $6.34. So like on a grocery bill of like $150, the biggest piece of writing down the bottom is, this is how much you saved by spending all this money at our supermarket.
Which is funny because, they could just up every product by 10 cents and then just immediately discount everything by 10 cents. And you think they're heroes, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But that's a really interesting point. And I'm totally going to steal that, because I know that our invoices that go out to our monthly members, there's nothing on that invoice that reminds them the value they're
Except
getting.
you just paid us.
Yeah,
and they
right.
need to think, what did I actually get? Did I get more than I put in? Right. Yeah. And you don't want people to need to think that. You want them to know immediately exactly the value they're getting for that payment.
Yeah. I'm totally changing my invoices as soon as I get off this call. So what about complacency? Like, we're generating recurring revenue in business. We have these customers paying us every month. Is it a little bit risky to just get complacent and think, if I don't provide massive value this month, they'll still pay because they'll just forget to cancel?
Yeah. Well, again, you don't want to run like a gym.
Yeah.
I think I think the good thing is if you have a lot of people who are paying you for a similar expectation, meaning they all have a similar problem that you're solving, you're going to learn a lot in terms of how to refine how it is you deliver that deliverable. And this is where I think things get fun. Like, do you know Nick Disvato, the guy who runs Draft Revise? No. Okay, so he has a monthly kind of like A/B testing service where you pay him each month and he just does split testing on your behalf. So he analyzes your data, he runs experiments, and then he writes a lengthy report, which is basically that value report, right? Like that CEO ready report on, hey, you just spent $1,500 on me, but here's what you got. Where I think things get fun is the optimization of the production of that deliverable. So, whether it's things like having part of that report be automatically generated or really reducing how much time needs to go into delivering the same exact result. That's, I think, to me at least, that's how to battle complacency, which is how do you make a more premium product, or how do you deliver that premium product in less time or less effort? I think that's, and hopefully that answers the question you were. I don't know if you meant that by complacency, just getting bored doing the same thing again and again. But I think that's definitely something that people have said, which is like, let's say you have a productized service where you're doing A/B testing for people. Well, don't you get bored doing A/B testing your whole life, right? And that's pushback I've heard from consultants specifically. But I think if you really think of it as run it like a SaaS, but it's manual, right? Subscription as a service product, but instead of it being software doing the delivering of value, it's human beings doing it, or anything in between, right? I mean, that's where, when you really understand how you can, there's so many parts of the overall funnel, from like acquisition to qualification to selling it to onboarding to these reports, that value report, or whatever. I mean, there's so many things that I think are.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.